So we're ready to go here. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran, and we got a great show lined up for you this morning. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Doing great, Todd. Doing great. There's lots of stuff that I think we can chat about. But the big thing,
huge amount of stuff.
I know there's a huge amount of stuff, but the big thing I'd like to cover a little bit is what are the best methods to market your show and build an audience? You know?
Oh man. Well, and I've got
right.
Yeah, I think that'd be some great topics, and I think I want to talk a little bit about the history of podcasting too. Just from
yeah. Has that whole topic come up?
It continues to, there was a basher on someone that's known in the space was just slamming the podcast iOS app last week, and then there was another guy that jumped in and he was just bemoaning Apple and why do we need them and they need to go away and they're not the only player, and I'm just there's frustration, but I have to breathe and I want to answer, and also I don't know, I've got my craw up a little bit in that I'm seeing these huge opinion pieces that I just certain things, every podcaster's trying to promote their show a variety of different ways, and maybe it leads into what you want to talk about, but
yep.
Anyway, first of all, I think we fixed the audio.
Awesome. I know I heard some feedback on that too.
Did they say it's too hot right now still? Is it good?
Over Yeah, I think the term was over-modulated. Yes.
You're still over-modulated. So in my ear, you're good.
Still over-modulated. Well, and I'm on an SM7B, which...
I turned you way down, so I don't know what to do.
Well, hey, you got a new setup there, sir. You may be getting in better volumes than you had before in your prior setup. So that's not a bad problem to have. It's just something you just got to adjust for.
Oh, okay. Michael says it sounds good. Okay. So I just turned him back like a wee. So yeah, if he's still hot, just let us know, okay? And
I just turned my mixer down a little bit too.
Yeah, if he's warbly, I had us even. See on this is the trials and tribulations of podcasting. On Audition, I'm right now a -12, and you go ahead and speak.
Yes, I am.
So you're way down,
well within my range.
Yeah, you're -18 on there. So you should be quieter coming out to everyone. Yeah, so Paul says my audio is hot. Well, okay, so I can turn myself down.
I mean, Todd, as far as I'm hearing, you're sounding just right.
All right, so I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens here. We're trying. Todd sounds heavily compressed. See, everyone that's been listening to my recent shows, they've been raving about the audio. I must have gotten 100 emails from listeners saying that the audio, they said I sound the best I've ever sounded. So I don't know. But I'm not heavily compressed.
Well, Todd, you are running an audio compressor back there behind you, aren't you?
But I never changed. Those dials have never changed.
Never changed.
The only change I made back there was I adjusted the EQ just a tiny bit on the mixer. So I don't know. Okay, you can hear us and we're not distorted. So
yeah, success.
See, and Stefan says I sound compressed too. So I don't know what to do. Maybe, I don't know. Okay. I thought we had it. I thought I had it. Thought I had it.
Well, Todd, from what I'm hearing in my earphones, you sound great.
Okay.
So.
Well, thanks. So let's
as best as ever, Todd.
Best as ever. Oh, okay, that's reassuring. So let us continue. And the funny thing, nothing has changed in the audio chain. That's the crack up about this whole thing. So, okay.
You have a whole new machine, don't you?
Well, the machine it's the same the streaming machine is brand new, yeah. But the rest of the chain is the same. So
it's the same.
Yeah, who knows? Okay. So Rob, let's talk about promoting your podcast first, and then we can talk about the history of podcasting.
Okay.
So fire it up.
Fire it off. Well, it's one of those things that is a reoccurring topic that I hear a lot from a lot of podcasters is, how do I grow my audience? And Todd, this really gets back to a long-standing conversation that we've had on this show, is that one of the big challenges that this medium has is growing overall audience for the entire medium. So, as more shows come online, more new shows, I might say it a little differently, there's more pressure on every show to find an audience. And unless we're all effectively marketing our show to build an audience in our particular genre or section of the potential listener base, then we may not grow as fast. And I guess that's the big challenge, and that's the opportunity with what we've been talking about with Android, and seeing that opportunity. I know with the show that I do for Spreaker, the Spreaker Live show, most of my audience comes out of Android right now. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's and a lot of the listening comes out of the Spreaker platform, which makes sense. It's a show about Spreaker, but I'm seeing my strongest audience coming out of Android listeners right now, which is not necessarily 100% common out there, but I think it never hurts for us to talk about kind of the latest ways of marketing your show, I guess. And I want to learn too, because there's certainly techniques that people are coming up with all the time. I mean, back in the early days of the web and the internet, there were, these search engines, right, that you had to kind of optimize for and kind of actually do a little bit of hacking of your code and stuff to be found. Are there hacks that podcasters should be doing out there now to grow their audience? I think, Todd, that's the topic I want to throw out there, and I throw it also out to our audience too, to give us feedback on that. What are the best techniques now? Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Is it just promoting the hell out of Android? Todd, what's your thought? I know you've done a lot of kind of podcast surveys and things like that and gotten feedback from the community, but I guess it does, at the end of the day, it gets back to the basics also, right?
Well, I've talked about this a lot this past year, and I presented at the New Media at Podcast Movement. I presented at International Podcast Day, and really I think what it boils down to is really three things. And it's really, and this is Todd's three things that you need to have. You need authority. You have to be the authority in your content strategy, and you have to build authority. Whatever you can do to be the person, the man, the woman, the entity, the guru, the subject matter expert, you have to be the authority. Number one. Number two, you got to build exposure. Okay, and the exposure can mean book, radio, television, meeting with people within your industry, so exposure, authority, and finally, really engagement. And you have to have engagement within your show to get feedback and engagement with your audience and talking to your audience, not about your audience. And, so really, I think those three things of the stuff that I have used personally Because without authority, why would people listen to you? Why would people, Rob, listen to you and I? We assume in our parts we're authorities in the podcasting space. We've been around for, God, we're the old guys, okay? So we've got some authority. Exposure, what do? We talk about this show all over the place. We promote it, and we try to engage the audience. And
and we also go to trade shows, and we go to conferences and expos, and we're out there in touch with the podcast community very deeply.
So,
and I think that's what you need to bring to all your shows, the shows.
And again, that building authority can be via blog, via book, via trade shows, via radio, via TV, via public speaking at events, connecting with companies, connecting with PR firms. Those are all, you have to be all of that to grow your audience. Now, if you have great content out of the gate, if you have sustained superior content, you're probably going to grow faster than others, but you still have to do all this other stuff. And
great content is so subjective too, Todd. I mean, it's not, there's like this X factor that exists with certain shows. Why do certain shows in the same genre scale to hundreds of thousands of listeners, where others in the same genre scale to a few hundred? I mean,
I think
what are those differences?
I think if you truly listen to those shows, you'll figure it out. And I think a big part of it is personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a personality. Who's the person you want to hang out with? That most vibrant. You don't want to. When you go to places, you can eat. If you need to drink a Red Bull before your show, or do 100 jumping jacks, that's what you need to do. You need to get the energy up. It's 7:20 a.m. I get an extra hour to sleep in this morning. All right. Who in their right mind? And I have had no coffee. Who in their right mind is ready to rock and roll at 7:20 in the morning? I do. I do your podcast. We record that at 5 a.m. my time. So,
yeah.
You gotta, and then what? And then on the opposite aspect, I record Geek News Central at 8 p.m. Hawaiian. So I'm at the end of the day, So do I always bring my A game to that show? No, it's I apologize sometimes to the audience because I know I haven't delivered my best. But again, we live in a society today of 240 characters. That wants instant satisfaction, and this thing is you got to work your butt off.
Yeah, it's very, very competitive now. There's a lot of shows out there.
One guy said, I saw it this morning, and my response to it was, I'm at a full-time job. I'm working, 9 to 5, and most jobs are not 9 to 5. They're mostly 9 to whenever, right? That's what employers demand of us these days. And there's very few people that are, at least salary people, that are spending 8 hours in office. That is not the society we live in, and not with a company that's succeeding. And then you have to come home from your job, dinner, kids, spouse, whatever, and then you got to strap on that microphone at some point, But when I started my show, Rob, there was incredible sacrifice. I was working a Navy job, I was building a business, and I was doing a podcast. I was working 20 hours a day.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I remember those days when I would contact you, and you're just like, you're always working.
Yeah. But what was, there was a goal, yes, people say bullshit. I worked 20 hours a day,
Yeah.
in those early days. My body was accustomed to 4 hours sleep too. So if you can't get away with 4, and I cheated once in a while, I got 6. Okay, woohoo! That was like that was a huge win to get 6 hours sleep.
Score. That's right.
But I don't sleep more than 6 now. I went to bed last night at 11:30 or so and woke up at 5:45. So whatever that math is, almost 6 or almost 7, whatever. But yeah, you have to grind through this if you're going to work and do a show. And you have to, you have to have a spouse on board that's willing to, honey, I'm going to be in the studio for 5 hours on Monday. Please take care of the kids or your significant other, or, my family plans nothing on Mondays and Thursdays. Nothing is planned on Mondays and Thursdays. If there's a wedding or a death or a graduation, that's about the only thing that we substitute. And we'll all take a show day off.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
but growing your audience is, and again, a lot of podcasters are doing it to themselves. We've talked about this 100 effing times on this show, and I apologize for getting, being my sailor breaking out here a little bit. But if you look at your website, what are you doing to help people subscribe to your show? When they come to your website, is it in their face? Is it in their face that you're a podcaster?
Well, and is there an audio player right there too? Is your content reachable easily, quickly? A lot of shows that I see are, it's buried on some sub page, and you got to click through like 5 pages to get to a web player. And some of them don't even have web players, Todd.
You come to my page. What is right there? Bam. I mean, it's in your face. Subscribe to podcasts. Apple, Android, email, Google, Stitcher, TuneIn, RSS feeds. You don't know how to do this? Click more subscribe options. A little bit further down on my page. What is it? Here's a player. And guess what it's got? Subscribe on the player. What does it have below the player? Subscribe, 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 subscribe.
Yeah.
Give
people a simple way to connect with your show. I think that's the key message here. I agree with you.
And this is 15,000 pages that have this data on it. It has that on there. So I think some podcasters do it to themselves when they're complaining about not being able to get more subscribers to their show.
But you also have to drive people to your website too.
Yeah, that's true. That's again, okay, Rob, what did I say earlier? Blog, podcast, book, trade shows, radio, TV, speaking, connecting with companies and PR firms. If I'm on the radio, Todd, where can people reach you? Yeah, they can reach me at geeknewscentral.com. Subscribe to my podcast. I don't give an email. On television.
Yeah.
Todd, how can they reach you? geeknewscentral.com. You can subscribe to my podcast right on the page. Everything I do,
and you can watch it or listen to it right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I drive everything back to that page. And yet people, I don't need a blog. I don't need a website. I'm quite happy where I'm at. I'm on iTunes. I'm a podcaster. I'm sorry if I'm pissing somebody off in this audience, but if you want to, if you're able to grow your show and just be on iTunes only or be on Apple Podcasts, please, I want to hear your secret. Because I'm willing to listen. And then this whole mantra of bashing on Apple right now. There is some really upset, angry people at Apple, and I'm bamboozled.
Why do you think that's happening, Todd? What's the motivation behind that? Is it truly that the Apple Podcast app is so awful that it's worth going off on it?
I don't know. Here's the thing. I upgraded my phone And guess what happened? A podcast I was subscribed to still kept playing on the podcast iOS app.
It still kept working? Is that what you're
It
saying?
still kept working. I'm on websites and I'm subscribing to shows, and I can subscribe to podcasts, and I'm still getting my shows. Everyone said, search is broke. Search is horrible. I have never searched for a podcast on the Apple Podcast app, except for my own.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I mean, a lot of people say that search in client apps is not very good. My experience is that oftentimes these big companies don't put a lot of effort into their search because I don't know. Do people use it a lot? I don't know. I mean, I think it's an interesting question, but how important is search really to people finding podcasts? I think it if you're offering links to your content off of your website and you're actually driving marketing to your show where people are clicking on a link that goes directly to that show in the iTunes or Apple platform, then you don't need to do a search. So, that's kind of my thought.
Yeah. Hey, Tommy, welcome to the chat room on newmediashow.com/live. I'm just trying to log in to say hi. I just, the space is, the space is changing. We've got a lot of new podcasters coming in, and they just don't know the road we have went down on this. And that's why I wanted to spend a little time today talking about, the history of podcasting, so people understand that we ought to be, okay, I'm not saying get down on your hands and knees and pray to the Apple God, okay, I'm not there. But we have got to be very thankful. If in your thanks and in your prayers, you better be thankful Apple has done. And if you're an atheist, I'm sorry, but if you better be thankful for what Apple has done for the podcasting community. In 2004, let me find it.
Well, plus, Todd, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, so this is a good time for us to start a Thank Apple campaign, I would say.
Here it is.
As part of our Thanksgiving, we can be thankful that Apple actually supports podcasting in a deep and robust way, because a lot of other big companies don't. So, right. And when they do, they screw it up.
Yeah. In 2004, this, for those of you watching, this is where we were in 2004. And this is a little device.
And an iPod too. So
okay, yes, but the majority of us,
similar type of device.
The majority of us couldn't afford an iPod in 2004. Okay, so the iRiver, it had a whopping 256. Was it meg of memory? Yep, 256. You connected a USB cable to it, and you basically plugged it into your computer. And you turned it on, and if the battery was charged, because it did require a AA, you could sync these cool things called podcasts to this and walk out the door and listen to a podcast in your car. Now, we laugh. This was revolutionary. You got to go back.
That was going to kill radio, Todd, as you can go back and recall.
To this point, was not an easy way to consume media. You couldn't consume it in your car. You couldn't drive down the road in 2004 and listen to a podcast unless you had something like this, an adapter, or you couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to have some earphones, and you could do it in the car.
Yeah, some earphones, and you could listen to this. This was it. So when I walked, and here in Hawaii, I've got had a nice commute at the time. When I got in my car and I could listen to the daily source code on this device and not listen to AM/FM radio, I get chills thinking about it.
Yeah.
So that was 2004 to June, July of 2005. And then in June, July of 2000, and all this development was going around on applications, that syncing application. There was iPodder, iJuice, Juicer, and there was, all these apps that were managing RSS feeds and and they were really cool. You synced everything up to your, every night I plugged this in, and at 2 a.m. A script fired off and it updated, and I got all the latest shows. But in June, July of 2005, when Apple brought podcasting into iTunes, and then the iPod could be still physically wired, synced through iTunes. What happened when that happened, Rob?
Well, the medium started to grow. That's when it started to lift off, and there was a lot of attention and a lot of interest. There was a lot of focus on it back then. A lot of media coverage, a lot of hype. I mean, a lot of it was kind of early expectation setting that probably wasn't based in a lot of reality, because there wasn't a lot of people listening yet. But the medium was getting a lot of attention. It was on the front page of Wired magazine, and back in that time, Todd, 2005, 2006, I was already starting to work on mobile phone distribution of podcasting. So that kind of stuff was starting to kick off. I used to work for a company called Melodio Mobilecast, and we made Java apps for Razor. Now, this was pre-smartphone type of stuff. I mean, it was before the iPhone came out, and because podcasting was on smartphone or limited capability phones, early on in medium, and even prior to that, there were other kind of precursor platforms that were out there with podcasting type functionality. Even Microsoft had a platform that was called Sync and Go that worked with Pocket PC devices. So you had the ability to synchronize. Now, granted, it wasn't an open platform; it was limited to only 13 content providers. But that started back in 2003. And went to up till about 2005. So there's this technology of doing it to mobile devices has been around for a very long time.
But the keyword
Apple
you said
was the one that,
limited content partners. That was a word there. Correct. You said, yes.
And it wasn't built on an open standard.
Right.
So, which is what Apple embraced. Apple embraced an open standard protocol, RSS 2.0, and that was originally created by Dave Weiner, and he added the enclosure tag to blog RSS, and that enclosure tag was never intended for podcasting. It was just something that the RSS2 spec was added there, so there could be other media types, whether it be PDFs or Word documents or text files or images or whatever you wanted to put in that enclosure tag, could be used. So podcasting was not even envisioned when Dave Weiner put that into RSS.
But, the hack that him and Adam came up with, primarily Adam, and getting the syncing to start.
Adam did.
That was... And so, here was... I put this into perspective. A couple of years into the podcasting space, I went to a conference because I'm thinking this time I'm all about distribution, right? I want to get distribution. So I went to this over-the-top conference where there was a bunch of, and I've told this story 100 times, where there was a bunch of folks from Time Warner and all these, multi-mega billion-dollar companies that have the control of the TV channels. And, I am up there kind of stupidly asking a question. What does it take to get a a channel on your guys' system, and it's like, $1 million, 2 years, and lots of lawyers, and because I thought it'd be cool, let's get podcast on TV, right? And
Yep.
so, some form of that has happened recently, mostly video podcast or videos. But, I just, so when Apple did that, it was a true inflection point, and it hurt the space a little bit, actually, because some of the innovation stopped because it just become easy. It just did it on Apple. So that's one of the big reasons why Apple basically obtained this mega foothold, is that when later on when the iPhone launched, it was just embedded and easy. And of course, then they put the podcast app as native, and it did become more easy. And I truly, truly believe the ability to one-click subscribe was the most brilliant thing that Apple ever did. And it really changed the space completely. With you having the iTunes link on your site and be able to click that and subscribe in iTunes early on, then later on, subscribe in the Podcast iOS app.
Yep.
Owned it. So, that's why we introduced one-click subscribe on Android. It's not as clean, but it still gives the same functionality. And I don't want to start pitching that again because I've talked about that enough on this show. And if you don't use it, good. Don't complain about your Android users. Good.
There'll be more listeners for me, right?
Yeah, don't. Please don't implement it. Don't. Yeah, I don't want you to. Especially if you're a tech show, please, if it's on your website, take it off. No, why not?
Todd,
right?
You're done promoting it as now it's like take the reverse psychology.
Yeah, I got that. It's okay.
Don't do it.
Go ahead.
Don't
No,
do it. It's horrible. It's horrible. It'll never work for you.
It's the worst user. It's, you don't want people subscribing to your show. You just don't. Why would you give people an opportunity to subscribe? So it's, just forget it.
No, well, Todd, didn't you know nobody's subscribing anymore? They're just going to click play.
Of course. We're just actively playing. Wrong. So
downloads are bad, Todd. Didn't you get the memo?
So when the last thing we need to do is start pissing Apple off. So please, constructive feedback is always fantastic. They want to hear it, but don't. This like pulling out the 12 gauge and blasting away. It's counterproductive.
Well, if they see the topic, and the guys that work at Apple, they're on social media. They're checking stuff out all the time.
All the time.
They'll just ignore you. So
yes, they will.
What it is.
And and you might actually, if you start promoting another service too heavily, you might find your episode missing off iTunes too. So. So.
Oh well. What do you expect, right?
Yeah. But here's the thing that drives me crazy too, is that you do what you want. There's no rules. I'm not Time Warner. I'm not Spectrum. I don't tell you how much bandwidth you can consume. It's your show. You do whatever you want.
It's true.
It's true. You can you say you don't know what you're talking about. Go away. And I'm fine with that. Because that's the beauty. That's the thing. That's this is where this all changed it. This iRiver, this little 256 meg piece of junk audio player that I was frustrated I could only load like 4 podcasts on every day. It allowed me to put my middle finger up at the man. When I put solar on my roof, Rob. When I got my first electric bill and it was $18.25. I mean, and when I get the email now telling me what my electric bill is because of my solar, I literally put my middle finger up and I point it towards the air, towards the Hawaiian electric company, because I am not paying those folks no more. They don't own me. Yeah. It's true. It's like taking. It's so empowering to take things back.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And that's what really podcasting has been all about is taking it back, taking media back and giving it to the people. Yeah. So it's leveled the playing field. And I think what, Todd, you and I get frustrated at is the efforts and the acceptance on the part of many out there of the big media taking our power away again.
It's never going to happen. Never going to happen. It's just like the Second Amendment. Don't take my guns. Don't take my podcast.
So are we going to start an NRA of podcasting?
No. But it's true though. They can't take it away. The genie's out of the bottle, and everyone can have a voice. That's the beauty of it. But if you want to have a voice or if you have a voice and you're doing a podcast and you want to be successful and your show's not growing the way it is, I got 5 letters, GRIND, grind. You got to do the grind. And if you're doing the podcast to build, and for me, I don't do that. I do the show for me. I love my audience, but I still do the show for me.
Yeah, sure. Well, it keeps you on the cutting edge of whatever topic that you're covering.
Yeah.
It's the same motivation that I had very early days with doing the podcasts that I have done. I do it so I can learn.
And
and it's just a way to share with others what you've learned.
And I swear I would never start using this word, but I'm liking it more and more because I was triggered last night by a post that Ravi made in a couple of communities talking about posting fake videos to Facebook, and and I'm just in how it's hurting his social presence, and it was this book of information, and I'm just like. Any distribution is good. I know no one is going to listen to an hour podcast on Facebook. They may watch. We got people watching right now. Okay. But when I post my show and I put the 2-minute sampler up with a promotion to go to my page, and because of Facebook's, not allowing MP3s, and you have to convert it to MP4, and you have to go through minutia to get it up on there. It's because it's the only way to do it that Facebook allows. Don't poo-poo that. That's just a great way to promote that there's a new episode. And again, what do? I send them back to the mothership. It's, those are being downranked, and whatever. We're not the Russians putting up fake news. We're podcasters putting up announcements about our shows to our listeners who are following us on Facebook.
And I'll be one of the first to. Well, I think Todd, you'd probably appreciate this. I don't know that the social media platforms are really all that effective at driving listeners to your show. I think you got to do it other ways. It's just one way you can connect with a certain segment of your potential listener base, but you can't be too reliant on Twitter or Facebook or any of these platforms to drive listeners to your show. I think you still have to be there, but that doesn't mean that you solely count on them as a way to drive audience, because I just don't think it's that effective, because the content needs to be appropriate to whatever medium it is. And those are different mediums than podcasting. Those are scroll through fast, check the headlines, find something that connects with you very quickly, and you move on. And a lot of people miss half of the stuff that gets posted to social media, or probably 80-90% of what gets posted to Facebook. So you may not even see it.
Yeah, at least 90%. If I want to see what people are saying, I go to their profile page. I don't count on the news feed to feed me info. So people that I follow, podcasters, YouTubers, I go to their profile page and look at their post.
Yeah.
That's what that friends list is for. So
Yep.
it's just, I just think that there's more to this whole podcasting thing than just strapping on a mic. But it depends on how you start, Rob. A lot of these folks, they just start on like SoundCloud, and that's where they're at. People were freaking out last night. SoundCloud had a little bit of an outage, and their media went down for a few hours, and and they don't understand these. Sometimes glitches happen, and they were screaming at the top of their lungs, "You took my media down! You copyright infringement!" It wasn't. They just had a technical issue for a short period, and we've had stuff happen in the past, and it's you automatically you have to be there and be responsive. But I don't know. I think we just have a different group of podcasters today, and I respect them. That's fine. If they just want to do a show and have it, whatever location, that's cool. I'm cool with that. But don't cry about your numbers.
Yeah. Get out there and do what it takes to build your numbers.
And sadly,
it's one episode at a time, one listener at a time, unfortunately.
Yeah, and sadly, some shows will never grow, and it's just maybe it doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
And you may, and if we could figure out that dynamic and why that happens,
Yeah. Well, Todd, that's a lot of the reason why you need to do the show for you as a podcaster.
Right.
Because if you're doing it because you're trying to build fame and fortune and all this kind of stuff like that, it's not going to sustain you, because there's going to be stretches of time when you're not going to feel good about it. You're not going to grow. You're not going to feel like you're reaching an audience. There's going to be a time, and we've all been through it,
yep,
where you think you're speaking to an empty room,
yep,
and it's psychologically challenging.
Yes, it is. Well, that's where radio folks have advantage. People can call in instantly and vent. So
yep,
if you're running up against that psychological impact where no one's listening, well, maybe you need to go and set an account up or up at Spreaker and do something live. Try a few episodes over there. There's lots of ways
shake it up a little bit.
Shake
right?
it up. Yep, to shake it up. Why did
do something different?
Why did I start video? It was something different. The audio was the audio. I wanted to try something new. That's why I didn't need to spend all this money to do that. I could have just kept doing the audio podcast.
Yeah. But a lot of people like to watch. A lot of people like to listen. A lot of people like to read.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's the key message. Now, granted, if you're too busy or you just don't have time to do all that, well, you do what you can. You do as much as you can to reach potential listeners, and maybe you need to really, really niche with your show if you're starting out small, and really just focus in on a target market. And try and reach those people.
There remains in the space 3 distinct categories of podcasters. It's been this way since the start. There's ones that are having fun doing a show, hanging out with their buds, girlfriends, and just doing a show to do a show. And they're having a good time doing it. They're not worried about making money. If people listen, great. That's cool. And that's a big portion of the podcasting space. A big portion of it. More than half.
And a lot of that, Todd, and a lot of that community gets bashed by the higher level podcasters, and I don't know why they feel like they need to do that. I think
God bless them.
They're
that
hobbyist podcaster, right?
Yep.
So
they're my bread and butter. That group right there. Number 2, second group is and I kind of would put my personal podcast in that middle group. I do a show. I want to make money. It is I respond to emails from advertisers the same day. That is my personal show. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm that middle level, and I enjoy doing my show, and it is a business. I do expect to try to make money with it. Then there's a third, and that's that top tier group that is like they're full time. That's all they do is their podcast. They have a production company, or they have assistants, they have personal assistants, so there's really those three levels. And all of them struggle with the same exact same thing. So, it doesn't matter what you're out for the show. If you want to build a business around a podcast, hey, guess what? Knock yourself out.
Strap on the big boy pants.
Well, not even that. Just you're going to have to work very, very hard.
I know, that's what I mean. I mean, it's nothing that's easy to do.
And I don't want to scare new people starting
to build a large show.
This thing can be very rewarding. There can be the entire time I've been doing podcasts, Rob. In the 13 years I've been doing podcasts, there was one episode that has made the entire 13 years worth it. I would do the whole thing over again for that one episode. Now, when my dad died on the anniversary of my 200th show, and I sent a short 3-minute podcast out saying the podcast was canceled, this is what happened, I'll see you in 10 days, and didn't take my laptop with me for going back and taking care of the arrangements and everything. When I come back and I had almost 3,000 emails of condolences from my audience, that single episode I think back to that often, and knowing that sometimes you feel like you're talking to an empty room, but in reality, you're not. And when it comes down to the brass tacks of when your audience knows you need them, they will come through and like knights in shining armor. So to me, that was a watershed moment for me. I have a separate folder in my email where all those emails reside. I'll never delete them. So it's everyone will have that moment in podcasting. Hey, thank you for helping me with this, or recently, Rob, on one of my podcasts, I shared some medical stuff that was going on, and 20, 30 emails later, I know that I'm making a difference and helping people, start exercising and helping make improvements to their life. So, again, when you really connect, they're going to come through and say, they're going to relate.
Mm-hmm. Podcasting is a very personal medium. So people will connect with you if you connect with them.
Yep.
So it's not unexpected, and it can be very, very, very rewarding. That's what has hooked me in this medium for many years. All the years that I've been working in this is that connection with people.
True.
With audience and podcasters, and that's what keeps me going every day, is just trying to help people. And that's a lot of people start out with the same kind of thoughts and aspirations that I did when I first started too, and I always keep that in mind when I'm talking to people. I don't get frustrated with people. I try and talk to them in a way that hopefully they'll understand. Sometimes no matter how I say things, people just don't understand, and that can be very, very frustrating for me. But it happens.
Rick makes a point in the chat room. He says, if you have 80 loyal listeners who love your show, why cry over the fact that you only have 80? You have 80 listeners more than you would had if you didn't have a podcast. And I'll follow that up with one additional comment. For those of you who have a regular job, how many people does your boss reach every day? How many people what's their circle of influence? And for most folks working in small businesses, your boss, if you're not the boss, your boss doesn't have influence over 80 people. You do. 400 or 300 or 3,000 or 4,000. So if you think about that from an influence standpoint, think about the responsibility we have as podcasters to take care of our audience and respect our podcasters. If we've got 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people listening, we're responsible for the psyche and well-being and health, and we may be the only lifeline, or it depends on the show. But you think about the power you have as a podcaster, reaching those people, and the influence you can have. That's big.
Well, Todd, I try not to think of it as some sort of there's power there.
I shouldn't say power. I'm saying those.
And that's,
we have a responsibility.
It's okay because, exactly. You're trying to just point out that you have a responsibility there, and
right.
And with responsibility does come power. You have the ability to influence and have an impact on other people, and you need to take that seriously. And that's where that that power comes from, is
right.
the responsibility that you have to add value to those listeners. They're investing their time in doing something, or listening to you, or whatever, or trying to start a podcast. And you need to always, and I do this, I try and always respect that. I try and be as authentic and real and helpful as I can with everyone that I speak to in the podcasting community. And that's just who I am. I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but I don't worry about my time. I worry about how much value I bring.
And that's why frauds in podcasting are smelled out so easy. Because you're right there in their head, and they're listening to you, and you're like, is this guy real?
Yeah.
You
have to be real in this medium.
You
can't be a phony and a fraud.
You can't be a poser.
No.
Not at all. Rick says there's a fourth level too, and those are podcasts created supplemental to support content for a company's product or service. I kind of put them in category 2, but you're right, Rick. It's kind of could be considered a separate category. And Michael says nobody listens to the boss by choice.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Well, hopefully you have hopefully you're, if you're a good boss, you've got the respect of your employees and they do listen.
Yeah. You probably still should listen to your boss, because that's the pathway to get into trouble.
Yeah, but good bosses listen to their employees too, so
Yes, of course, right. It's not a one-way street.
No, it's not. There may be a time where it's one way.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but usually it's a two-way dialogue.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But I tell you one thing that we went through, I gave you guys I talked a little bit about it on Facebook, but Barry Kantz, our CFO and legal, and Angelo have been working consistent, not like full time, but we've been talking with a variety of companies and trying to get our healthcare laid in it for next year, and we're changing up what we're doing. And the is a small company. It's very hard when you're a very small company and you have people in multiple states to get healthcare plans set up where they actually have choices. And they worked like dogs, and we were able to at least give the employees 3 choices of healthcare this year, and they could pick from 3 different plans. But it was woefully way too painful to do that. So you're trying to do the right thing, and it's just the whole system is broke If you're a big company,
I agree.
it's easy. But if you're a small company, it's very very difficult. And our average the gross amount that's going to cost between the share. We do a share with our employees. We do 75-25, where we pick up 75% of the bill. Is about $7,000 is the average. Of course, each age group is a little different, but about $7,000 an employee is about the average cost for healthcare that we were able to. And actually, that's up a lot. So it's just broke.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be going up more too.
Well, not for. I don't think it's going to go up more for companies that have plans. It's going to be going up for individuals that have to try to do this on their own. But I think
it's either that or the. I mean, I'm seeing it myself as I don't know if it's just in the Seattle market or something like that, but it went up a lot and the coverages went down.
So anyway, it's broke. Yeah. The whole system's broke, and I don't know if they're ever going to find a solution. But it's tough being a small business owner. So if you're in, that's something to think about too. If you want to be an independent podcaster, and you're going to go on your own and go full time, it's be prepared for that. That because you're not going to get a plan for. It's going to be. And for a family, $10, $11, $12, $13, $14,000 a year you don't get any leverage if you're not you're not working for a company. It's ridiculous. It should be the same. Everyone should be able to get the same type of plans. That's the problem, but it's not the world we live in.
Yeah.
So those guys, just an amazing amount of time having to spend on that meeting with different groups and trying to get stuff figured out. But most groups only wanted to give us one choice. And our challenge was because of the multi-state problem. That just complicated the hell out of it. It was insane. And being small, there's only 15 of us. So not everyone, we've got some contract workers, so not everyone's full-time.
Yeah.
But anyway. The woes of podcasting.
Challenge. Yes. Well, it's the woes of starting any small business these days. It's challenging.
Yep. So what else is happening in the sphere? We've been ranting here we've been on the soapbox for an hour.
We have been. Let's see. I mean, I was looking at Pod to Pod a little bit. PodCon agenda has been released, I guess.
Yep.
It's coming up here in early December. Spreaker now supports Chromecast and AirPlay.
Oh, nice.
Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, good for you guys.
Yeah. So our apps can be listened to on those platforms. Let's see here. What are some of the other things going on here?
Well, we believe it or not, you're probably just taking your stuff. But if you're going to PodCon, you have to ship stuff by Tuesday of next week. I couldn't believe it. Ship that early, but I guess because of the holidays and everything, that was the requirement. But I think PodCon's going to be fun. They're going to have Laura's going to be there on the main stage, and then they're going to have talks about networks and communities. And so there's some stuff that is going to be podcaster focused, but there's a lot of this is going to be listener focused. But there's still stuff I think that podcasters will get out of this. Talking about recording and equipment and doing it live, and some voice workshops, that type of stuff. So I think there's some stuff there for podcasters. So if you're in striking distance of Seattle, I think there are close to 1,000 people have registered to go. So it should be fun. I'm going to be there. I get there Saturday morning. I land at SeaTac, Rob, at 8 a.m. How long is it going to take me to get downtown?
Probably only about 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. So it's not far. Can I Uber from SeaTac? Does Uber pick up there, or are they?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. they've got a huge pickup station in the parking garage.
Oh, so you have to go to the
I mean, there's
station, or is there specific?
Yeah, you have to go. It's on the I think it's on the 4th floor of the parking garage.
Oh, cool.
It's this. It's like a parade of Priuses. Yeah.
So I'll drop my bags at the desk and go to the conference, I guess. So hopefully I don't stink too bad after flying all night. She's going to try to get me in my room early, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe I can get a shower. But yes, and then I fly out Monday. Early.
PodCon is December 9th through the 10th in downtown Seattle at the Washington State Convention Center. So, which is a beautiful facility. Todd, have you ever been to the Washington State Convention Center before?
I don't think so. The only thing I've been into, I went to Gnome Decks a couple of times, wherever Chris had that event.
Yeah.
But we're staying at the Sheraton, I think, right across the street. I don't know. Mackenzie made the reservations. So
yeah, it is. It's actually right next to the convention center, so you'll be close.
All right,
you'll be walking distance close.
All right,
and the actual convention center sits literally on top of I-5.
Oh, wow! Well, that's cool.
So,
you get to watch the traffic go through.
No, it actually goes underneath it.
Oh,
so you can't really see it.
So they're tunneled under it. I got you.
Exactly. So, but there's lots of natural surrounding, big windows. It's a very kind of natural, kind of modern looking facility.
So
it'll be nice.
As a reminder, it's vacation time for the rest of the country. For podcasters, it's buckle down and get to creating content. Remember, people are going to be driving a lot. They're going to be looking for things to do. Probably starting about Wednesday. So if you've got an episode in the can that maybe an extra one, it'd be a good thing to drop that like Tuesday night. You might get some extra listens out of your audience, and then of course for the holidays, the week leading to Christmas, and then the 6 weeks following Christmas is the number one time to gain new listeners to your podcast, new subscribers, because everyone's got new, shiny, brand new devices that Santa Claus has brought. And oftentimes they're also off work. They've got time to relax, sitting around the lazy boy, got the fireplace running. They can check for some new podcasts to listen to. So it's not time to slouch off. I hate to tell you this. If you're planning on taking a break, that's a mistake.
Yes. Buckle down, get it done.
And if you have a show that you can put some shows in the can and release them later, maybe this is the time to do 4 or 5 ahead. And I don't normally do that, and I can't do that personally.
So Tom, I noticed that there's an article in Pod to Pod right now talking about facing your podcasting fears.
Oh.
Are there podcasting fears?
Let me look at this. Brandcasting.com.
Facing your podcasting fears. So it says here, fear of starting a podcast, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, or the fear of the unknown. Ooh.
So anyone that's over at brandcasting.com, who's that player by? I'm looking at this player and I'm trying to figure out who makes this player.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's nice. It's clean.
It is very clean.
Yeah. I probably just gave a plug to a competitor, but it's okay. So, gotta give credit where credit's due when you see stuff. So he's talking about some tactics to help people get through it that we didn't really go into. I guess you'll have to listen to the episode, but the way he writes his show notes is very difficult. Here's the thing about the web too, and let me just bring this up for those of you watching. So it's just, he's got like this huge article, And I understand this is good, but give me some bullet points.
Yeah. Well, or put some quotes in there that are large.
Yeah.
I do this on my blog. If you go to robgreenlee.com, you can see what I do with my blog posts too, because you got to grab people's attention.
Yeah, this
can't just be a wall of words.
Yeah, because this is good for Google, and I'm sure he's got good ranking here on this page. But I need some, like, okay, why do I want to read this to begin with? So, yeah.
I mean, it's good that he has some photographs in there.
Yeah.
But it's got to be something that pulls you in.
Rick says, fear of recording an hour show and having a corrupted file. Rick, you've been podcasting for many, many years. You record 2 sources, right? I do. And it has saved me many times. In this show, I've forgotten to start the recorder over here. And, and then because I've got the video being recorded separately, I'm okay. But yeah, I've been saved a few times by having 2 sources.
Hey, Todd, go to my blog, robgreenlee.com, and I can show viewers, at least, about kind of occasionally what I'll do with the blog post to make it kind of pop.
Okay, so here you go. We gotta.
So once you kind of, I mean, you can see it right there, right out of the gate, but keep going down. And okay, so you start like this post here.
Sorry,
podcasters. Oh, you gotta.
Okay. Wow.
Todd, you got a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah. That's
okay.
Very unusual. So okay.
So keep going down, and it said why podcasters and listeners should care about dynamic ad insertion. So you can see how I've kind of broken up the article and highlighted content in there that will attract the eye to certain quotes in there or things that I've written to drive a message. Because what a lot of people do will just kind of scroll through the blog post looking for something that will catch their attention, right? And if it's summarized or highlighted or created in a little different font or something like that, they'll read that and that'll suck them into the article. And then I also post a link to the audio segment that actually supports that topic.
Right.
So this is a technique that I've been using with my radio show I did for many years, and this was back in the early 2000s, and was very effective at driving people to listen to your show. So you write articles with a web embeddable audio player, and you get people hooked to listening to the audio, but reading too. So,
boy, Rob, look at that awful audio player there. I'm not just kidding.
I know, isn't that terrible? I know it's just it really needs to be worked on. Todd.
Actually, your guys' player's nice too, so I'm just teasing.
I know you are.
But so I guess we've kind of talked a little bit today already about basically what do you do to grow your show, and this kind of falls into that same mantra here, and here's the things things you can do on your website. And because my show is a news show, my approach is really a lot different, because my goal is I've talked about so many topics. I want them to be able to come in very quickly and find the topics. So, my strategy has always been to just give them talking points. I go through and link to every article. I just, they're quick there for them, easy to find. I have a little bit of dialogue at the beginning of the episode, but because I do a news show, this is how I format
all your links.
All my links to everything that I've covered. So, and I do something else with these.
That's important.
I have these as Google will impact you if you're doing this, if you don't link these the right way. And I actually do these as no follows, because it looks like I put a spam list in here.
considered to be a link
farm.
Yeah, is what they call it.
Yeah, so these are all set up as no follows, and that way I don't get hammered by Google. If there's something I want to put in the show or in the show notes that's a little more linking to something, then I'll do that in a separate paragraph. But yeah, that's the way I set this up, is so that I don't get penalized by Google, because I learned this the hard way. They did penalize me, and I had to go through and fix all that to get some of my ranking back. So let's talk just a little bit about what are your predictions for next year, Rob? It may be too early to start talking about this, but what do you think?
Oh, what's going to happen next year as far as in podcasting space?
Or maybe what's going to happen in December when these Apple data comes out?
I don't think a lot will change when the Apple stats come out. I think people will keep doing their shows, but I think there will be a little bit of an adjustment of expectations on the part of advertisers. So, and people will probably wind up tweaking their shows once people know how far people are listening in, and I think it's going to cause some adjustment. I don't think it's going to be like a major earthquake in the podcasting space. I think it'll just be people will make slight adjustments. And actually, I'm kind of hoping that this whole pre-roll thing, kind of fascination with pre-rolls, kind of fades away.
In regards to...
I've been thinking more and more about this for a while now, and I know that I'm kind of speaking a little out of turn compared to what a lot of people in the podcasting space are doing right now. But I would like to see pre-rolls kind of go away. I would like to see early mid-rolls as the standard. Yes.
I don't do pre-rolls.
I know you don't, Todd.
I've never sold pre-rolls.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow, I didn't convince you on that. What made you think about that?
Oh no, I've always felt that. I just have gone along with what's been going on for a long time. I mean, I didn't use, on my radio show I did for 6 years, I didn't have pre-rolls. That was ridiculous. I only did mid-roll host reads. That's the only thing I ever did. It's like putting a stop sign in front of your content. I mean, there's lots of people that come in and will just click the player, listen to 30 seconds of your show, and what's the first thing they hear? They hear an ad, right? That's not how you scale or grow your show.
We need to figure out a way to only give pre-rolls to existing subscribers, and new people that listen to your show don't get bombarded with an ad.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably a better compromise, because I guess where I have an objection to it is trying to attract new listeners.
Yeah.
What's their first experience that they have with your show when they click the play button? You don't want it to be an ad.
So this is how I start. This is how I start my show, and this is how I take care of the sponsor at the beginning. I said, "This is Geek News Central. My name is Todd Cochran. The stories that lead today's show are," and I have 4 leaders. And then I say, plus all the news of the day. And then I say, I want to welcome you to episode 1240 of the Geek News Central podcast for Monday, November 13th. The show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com and listeners like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And then I go into the show. That's how I do my intro, by giving the sponsor a plug at the beginning without being disruptive.
Yeah. I think that's a much better flow. I know that there's another model that's out there too. Leo Laporte does this too, where at the very beginning of his show, he does just really kind of like billboard type brand mentions of the sponsors of his show.
Yep.
And then he moves into the content. That's probably okay. But I think as we get into this era of highly competitive marketplace for listeners, I think that's the best strategy, is to have a early mid-roll mention of your sponsor, or do your host read like within the first 2 minutes of your show. but don't make it the first thing. If you listen to my Spreaker Live show, I do main topics right at the top of my show. Just quick mention what the main topics of the show are, and then I play my intro music, and then I introduce the audience. So it's almost like this teaser at the beginning. This is what I'm going to talk about really quickly, like in 5 seconds, and then I start the show. It helps that listener decide if they're going to continue listening or not, and that's up to them, not up to me to force an ad on them.
Yeah, I just the pre's not going to go away. Those that want to do it can.
No, it's not. And I'll be honest with you, Spreaker does pre-roll ad insertions right now, but I'm trying to encourage the team to move towards early mid-roll insertions.
So some shows are doing pre, mid, post. So.
That's right.
And I heard a little birdie tell me that a certain network is sold out. Their inventory they have no inventory. It's sold completely out. So that's good.
Big network or upstart network? Or?
A New York network is sold out, completely sold out. And
wow.
You couldn't
buy.
For
how long?
A long time. You can't buy an ad in a show if you wanted to.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, hey, let's talk. Tom Webster posted something on the Podcast Movement Facebook page. It was a link to a Pandora article talking about Pandora's stock went up when someone mentioned that.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
That they may, or podcasting would be a good fit for Pandora, and of course I had to add my notification, basically saying. Okay, no audio platform has successfully integrated podcasting yet. And of course, I was told I was being poo-pooing them, but yeah.
Pandora, well, no, you said no music platform.
Music platform, yeah.
So has been successful in launching podcasts.
Which is true. Yeah. So this was...
Short of iTunes, but
yeah.
That's a little bit of a different example.
Yeah, so Pandora stock zooms higher as analyst identifies podcast potential. Let's see if I can get this screen here. 4, 5, 6. I'm still remembering what numbers I'm on. Shares of Pandora jumped over 4% on Thursday. BMO Capital Markets says Pandora move to grow non-music content such as podcasts could be key in reversing this year's steady stock price decline. The firm says Pandora's change to its business models are being underappreciated. So are they actually doing some podcasts? They've done a few, right? But nothing big.
Well, they are reaching out to the community. I have spoken to Pandora.
So are they doing onesie-twosies again, just like Spotify, or?
Well, I think it's still a little early to talk too much about what they're doing or what they might do. But it's, I would say that they are seeing a renewed interest on the part of Spotify, and this is a little bit of a reaction to that, I would say.
18 months ago, what was the exact words from Pandora? We will never put podcast on Pandora's platform.
I've never heard that, Todd.
Yes, they made that.
I've been talking to Pandora for representatives of Pandora for probably a good.
All right, let me Google.
4 years now. 4 years now.
Let me go Google my email here.
Well, that may be what they put out publicly. I don't know, but my conversations with them and Tim Westergren, who is the founder of Pandora, has said in a podcast, no joke, that Pandora would eventually have podcasts.
Oh.
He said that probably 6 years ago.
Huh. Okay, so it goes back a little bit further. So my email was November 19th, 2013, so 4 years ago. And That was their response then. We will never put podcast in Pandora. So it's been a while.
Who was that gave that quote?
I won't say on the show, but there was.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll have to Google and see if that person's still even there.
Probably not.
Yeah, but that was November 19th, 2013.
Okay.
But
I think that there was a certain amount of resistance on their part. The feeling that I had was that they thought that if there would be spoken word content like that, that it would be music related. Was always the comment that I had heard. And then they, in the last few years, they did that exclusive deal that they did with American Life and Serial.
Yeah.
Right? That was their kind of foray into podcasting. Even though their distribution was not anything to do with podcasting, it was all about just the content. And you could say that about other players too in this medium.
So
it's about the content, not about podcasts.
Tom indicated they did revenue share, but you would expect as part of a deal with Serial that would have been required. So the question then is, do you think, Spotify's not doing rev share? So do you think that Pandora will do rev share with all podcasters?
Well, that's hard to say. I don't know.
SoundCloud was supposed to do that, but I'm hearing a lot of people complaining that they didn't get a check and they're being charged for their account even after they agreed to do rev share. So,
Todd, it's technically possible. I would
think so.
It's technically possible. It from a business perspective, it may not be plausible. I don't know.
Yeah, if Pandora does rev share, then I think that's a step in the right direction. But
yeah,
I think podcasters have to be prepared though.
It could be pennies.
Or yeah, that's true. You're gonna feel the pennies that the artist from the radio side, what they've been complaining about for years, that they're not getting no money out of these companies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might be pennies. Yeah, who wants it? I'd like to see that check. Here's your 3 cents. Please send me that check.
They won't send you a check until it's $50, Todd. So it's going to be like,
yeah, I want that. I want that 3 cent check is what I want. So even a $50 check after 10 years, that might be cool. It took me 10 years to get to $50.
Todd, back when I to jump back in time to when I started kind of supporting podcasts like Function, I had mentioned earlier in the show, I'd mentioned Sync and Go, which was a Microsoft platform with Windows XP and Pocket PCs. When I joined that platform, just to give you a little bit of a example of what we're talking about here about pennies, I got paid 25 cents per download.
Wow.
On that platform.
Wow. That's huge.
Well, it's pennies, right?
It's still 25 cents a download. You multiply that by 1,000. That's huge CPM.
No, I got paid about $5,000 a month.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To distribute my radio show on Cinco.
So let me just do the math here real quick. Something. So if I could get 25 cents from my existing audience over at Geek News Central per episode.
I didn't even have to pay for the bandwidth. It was all provided.
Rob, if I could get 25 cents per download for my existing, that's a cool $250,000 a month. 25 cents. You multiply that by your existing audience. I mean, let's take an average show. Okay, so let's say you got 5,000 listeners. That's still, it's at $1,250, per show. That's, sign me up all day long. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny though when I tell my listeners, hey, just $2, just give me $2 a month. And if you gave me if every listener gave me $2 a month, I could in the first month we could hire like 5 people. The month 2 we could put the down payment on like 3 acres of land. Month 3 we could build. I mean, it's like the dynamics would be incredible. Just $2 a month supporting, and they would never have to air an ad ever again.
Yeah.
If you and I got $2 a month from every listener of this podcast, we could almost live on that.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
agree.
So it doesn't take a lot of $2 listeners to really, and that's the thing I always kind of laugh about too. But you'll never get more than maybe 10% of people to donate. If you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
let's go back and talk
that's
about.
true.
We didn't finish up talking about Spotify and Pandora, and I'm sorry, I'm not bullish on their ability to bring a lot of listeners. And Tom says they advertise on billboards and on the sides of buses and that stuff.
Well,
so,
Todd, I think he's focused on what the potential is.
Well,
and
of course.
I do agree with that. I think that there is potential there, but the key is how is the medium supported on those platforms, and is it catering to or taking advantage of the medium's abilities, or is it just being shoehorned into something that already exists, right? Which is the music distribution technology that they have. And I think that's the key question, is they haven't been willing to, at this point, invest in making that content appropriate on their platforms. And I think that's, and what their users actually want, instead of forcing a certain type of user experience on users that is not a conforming user experience to what typical podcast listeners are looking for.
Yeah. I also think too that I keep talking about being inclusive, and I hope the Spotify people will wake up to know that they continue to alienate a large percentage of the podcast community. And
you have to get engaged in the community. You have to be visible. You have to be reachable. It's the same thing, Todd, that I did at Microsoft. I mean, for all those years.
And you can't have gatekeepers, and that has to end. They've got their Spotify at least has their online application form now that they're approving shows, but it's still a process, and there's no guarantee, and there's no feedback if you don't get approved. So they've got to at some point they got to figure out how they're going to be more inclusive in the space.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think early on, Spotify did put forth some efforts. I mean, I had Rachel Green on a panel at Podcast Movement, and she was, the one that was in charge of the Spotify experience. And I recorded a podcast with her. Unfortunately, I lost the recording that I had with her. She explained a lot of what they were trying to accomplish. But they have been at Podcast Movement. I don't believe Pandora has been at Podcast Movement.
Well, one thing's for sure is that they've expanded their team. I think they're up to 5 or 6 now. So they're a little more serious about it.
Yeah. No, I would say I would agree.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this, with these initiatives, with these groups. Again, I as I said to Tom in the comments, I hate to be a pessimist, but when they can break 5%, then I might get excited. If they can actually drive the needle to get actual listeners, or it's tangible, and they're if an audience can get 5% of their audience listening on one of these platforms, then I say they're a player. But very few platforms have been able to break 5%.
Yeah.
So look at Android. For most shows, Android's 13, 14%. For my show, it's pretty significant because I've been pushing it heavy. But if you've got half of the mobile force, half of the world's mobile phones, and you only got 13% of them listening to podcasts, then how does Spotify and Pandora get to 5%? And are they bringing new listeners? Is it 5% of new listeners?
Mm-hmm.
If they can do that, then that's saying something. But if it remains, in the not even the nosebleed area, down in the sub basement, it's, I don't know. I remain a pessimist. Sorry. I hope they listen, but I don't know if they do. I really don't.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, Todd, I was trying to find a link to show you that Sync and Go thing.
So, by the way, any of you that are doing blogs, any of you that have blogs or doing podcast shows, you need to start asking these hard questions of these groups. You need to start publicly asking, when are you going to become inclusive? When are you going to open up? When are you going, what's your policy on revenue share? We need to start publicly asking these questions of these companies. And you be nice about it.
Yeah, don't bash them. Just give them constructive feedback on what they need to do.
They need to hear, because I don't think even today they understand. I don't think they understand the dynamics of the podcasting space. I really don't think they do. I might be wrong, but we need to start talking to them and asking questions respectfully, and hopefully they'll answer.
Yeah, I think that's key.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, Rob, we're
here, Todd. Are we at? Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. We're at 90 minutes live. Yep.
I was going to send you a link to that Sync and Go thing, but
I've got a interview in about 20 minutes with a student that's doing his. I think he's doing his master's degree dissertation on podcasting. So it's either his master's degree or something for undergraduate. I don't know, but I'm doing an interview with him here in about 20 minutes on that. So that should be fun to talk to someone that's been studying podcasting that maybe isn't necessarily a podcaster.
No, that would be. Yeah, I occasionally have those kind of calls too, where people are doing like a paper at a school or something like that. Yeah, so Todd, I just sent you that link.
Okay. So also the New York Times Magazine, I talked to them earlier in the week. They're looking at the growth of political podcast, and so expect a article to come out in the New York Times Magazine, not the New York Times. So there is a difference that talks about this. So
is that like a slide-in edition in the newspaper though?
I don't subscribe to the New York Times, so I don't know. I would assume so.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, but they called us because we had been quoted in a Vice article in April about the same topic, and they wanted updated numbers. So, and of course, their deadline was like in 10 minutes, and I had to make Angelo scramble to. And luckily, he's starting to keep all those scripts. So we just all had to do is paste it in the command line, and it went blah. It gave him the information. So.
Todd, that link is probably there with you, and it's a page that was written by Jake Luddington.
Oh, really?
That has a bunch of screenshots of the platform.
All right, let me load this up. This we're going back in the time machine, huh? So here's the power of a blog. That the article was written. Actually, it was released in 2008, but it has like he may have updated it. So let me see here.
Yeah, because the whole platform was shut down in 2005.
Oh my God, that's like looking at. Oh, Rob. Yeah, there's the partners. CNBC, NPR, MSNBC, Today Show, Nightly News, CBS Market Watch, Weekly Golf. Yeah, well, those are all just like, indie podcasts, right?
Well, I mean, Todd, I was on this list too. It's just you can't see my show listing there because the list was longer than this.
Right.
But
I mean, Rob, you work
there were
for
a couple of shows in there. There was Ken Radio World Tech Roundup.
Yeah.
That was an online audio show podcast. But yeah. It was a licensing deal.
Look at how many screens you had to describe this. No wonder it didn't have any adoption.
Well, it actually had about 3 million users.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
They missed their calling. They should have opened it. They could have. Little did they know they could have owned the space.
Yeah. They actually started this in 2003.
Yeah.
So and then they shut it down right after podcasting started. I screamed at them, just add more content providers. I think that what they didn't want to do was have to add more content providers and pay them 25 cents per download.
Right. Sign me up for that. I could have retired 5 years ago.
Exactly. That's probably the real reason they shut it down. It was starting to get popular.
If there's anyone out there that is willing to do a deal with me where they'll even just, we'll take 15 cents. That's 15 cents a download. Hey, be happy to talk to you all day long. I'll sign that contract with you in about 2 hours after I receive it. We just want a guaranteed revenue for 3 years. So,
Todd, always pitching, aren't you?
Of course, that's a pitch that'll never get responded to. All right, so everyone, thanks for being here. Okay. You can reach me, Todd, at blueberry.com or on Twitter at Geek News. Rob?
I can be reached Rob at Spreaker.com or Rob at RobGreenlee.com, and that's with 2 E's. And on Twitter at Rob Greenlee. It's a great place to reach out to me and let me know what you're thinking.
So are we doing a show post Turkey Day, or are you going to be out and about, or what's the plan?
Post Turkey Day, I'm game with doing a show on the 25th. Sure.
All right. I'm Black Friday. I'm shopping right here in this chair. I'm like, or maybe on the couch. I don't do Black Friday. I do Black Monday on Black Friday.
Okay. So you're not going to go down and get trampled to death at the front of a store.
No, I'm not going to stand in Walmart line 5 hours for a underpriced, underpowered junk TV that they only have 10 of. No, I'm not going to do that.
Smart man.
Yeah,
I'm not either.
All right. And if you are out there and doing it, hey, here's one thing I am looking for. I'm looking for the Super Nintendo. The SNES, the little mini one, the package that's come out. If anyone sees one, buy 2. I'm good for it. Now, if 10 of you say that you've bought them for me, that's fine too. We'll put them on eBay and we'll make money together. But if anyone sees a Nintendo Super NES, grab 2 if they let you grab 2, because I haven't been able to score one yet, and I feel I'm going to be down and out. But if you score one, I'm good for it. Just email me. I'll pay for shipping and everything. But all right, everyone, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week on the new media show. And take care. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.